Hey, I'm Alex Racco from Board Game Co, and this is News and Week in Review, where we're going to dive into a variety of things, the various news of the week, the games I play, the videos of the week, and a review of the hot games over on BGG, as well as why they're trending when I can figure it out. I can't always figure it out, which is a different conversation. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive into it. Oh, and if you notice a child in the background or the occasional cough, someone's homesick today, so we're doing this with a background audience. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive into this, starting off with a Splash of Neon is coming to Chip Theory Games. This is big news, or relatively big news. It's not like huge news, but it's decent sized news from Chip Theory and Neon Knight Games. Neon Knight Games is going to be Manny Tremblay's new studio that he did together with somebody else, I believe. I believe it's Manny and somebody else who started this new, Manny and Jeff Jacobson, that's what it is. Manny and Jeff Jacobson started a new studio for their new game, Neon Rain, and they might be doing other games as well, but that's going to be Neon Knights. It's now going to be underneath Chip Theory Games. It's going to be a separate studio, I believe, operating, well, I don't know if the right word is independently, but they're going to have their own studio. They're going to operate underneath Chip Theory Studio, underneath Chip Theory Games, benefiting from shared values and infrastructure and framework and all those things, while operating with different audiences in terms of the intent of their games and who they're for. So just a bit of a minor merge / acquisition / whatever. Neon Rain is currently over on crowdfunding. You can check that out. Then we have over here Fallout. More Fallout news, because Fallout, the TV show, which I finally finished the first episode, only took me way too long. I started it and then got halfway through and then I had to stop and do stuff, and then it took me a week and a half later to actually finish it, which is not great. Also, I do like the first episode. Only the first episode, no spoilers please. But anyways, Fallout tabletop game sales surge from Divinus. We've seen this, I mentioned this already a few weeks ago, or 2 weeks, I don't know. I mentioned it at some point. But basically, over on Steam, if you check out the Steam, or there's all these news articles about how Fallout has caused the player counts in all the Fallout games to basically surge. That's also true for the tabletop space. We saw this already on last week's Hotness or whatnot when I was reviewing it, showing that Fallout, the game, an older Fallout game from Fantasy Flight, was in the Hotness because it's Fallout. Right now we have Modifius confirming that they are basically having double their sales on some of their RPGs or games in the Fallout universe as well. So basically, more interest and attention on Fallout because, at least so far, at least based on the first episode, I'm very interested in continuing and finishing. I thought they nailed a lot of things about the show. Very, very well done for the first episode, so far. And I don't always love these. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, was not for me. I plan on finishing it at some point because I have, it's Lord of the Rings, I have to finish it, right? I think I have to have, an obligation to finish anything they make Lord of the Rings. Probably. Maybe. But we'll see. But anyways, we'll go ahead and go past that into Cyclades. Cyclades Legendary Edition. This is basically a small little announcement that they are closing their, the Pledge Manager. Pledge Manager is closing on May 15th. Is it May 15th? I think May 15th. May 15th, the Pledge Manager is closing. So if you are interested in backing this game, this is your last chance to do so. We have over here on Repost, wrong site, I didn't mean to go here, I meant to go here. Repost, we mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago that they have Lord of the Rings Duel coming, or mentioned specifically they have a Lord of the Rings game coming. But somebody said that they mentioned that it is going to be Lord of the Rings Duel, or it's based off of Seven Wonders Duel. By calling it Lord of the Rings Duel Middle Earth, it does seem like it is in that vein, although I am curious. Looking at this over here, it seems like these might be the equivalent of science tokens in terms of the matching icons. I don't know for sure. I don't know if it's exactly Seven Wonders Duel or loosely based on Seven Wonders Duel. We'll see. Art by Vincent Dutrait, which does great overall, which I think, did I know that already? Gollum looked like Vincent Dutrait, so it makes sense. But either way, Lord of the Rings Duel, Middle Earth, I'm very intrigued by this one. I assume I'll get it. I don't know whether I'll keep it or not. That kind of depends on whether it is or isn't Seven Wonders Duel, and if it is, how similar is it, and is it better or worse? We'll get into all those things. I'm sure there'll be coverage down the road eventually. Then we have BoardGameWire. BoardGameWire over here, and it is a light news week, I should say that. The past few weeks have had a lot of news. This week, not that much. BoardGameWire is 1 year old today. And by today, I mean last week. As of last week, they were 1 year old, and they've had more than 250,000 readers. And kudos to BoardGameWire, because I don't think I realized they were only 1 year old. I would say that, in general, when I'm doing these news pieces, there's a variety of news sources I use to be able to bring you whatever I think is most interesting or relevant. I use Board Game Geeks News, I use the general Google, I use my own knowledge of just being on social media and seeing various things as time goes on, and then pinning some little note for the news and week in review. But one of the dominant sources that I have used for, I would have said over a year, but I guess not, is BoardGameWire. BoardGameWire is definitely one of the larger sources I use for reliable, interesting news pieces. And this is basically an article on that, going through a variety of testimonials from people who are benefiting from the content. And I can echo that. I think BoardGameWire is one of the more interesting, well done news sites out there. I think there's lots of sites and platforms bring news to you in different ways, but I definitely think this is up there in terms of how much I appreciate the way they do it, the way they handle it. Sometimes they bring you hard-hitting stories that are hard-hitting stories sounds a little more dramatic, but they actually probe and have conversations and interviews. So they they really do an amazing job, and so kudos to them. If you're not a fan, if you're not following BoardGameWire for your board game news, well, maybe you should. Although I will mention the ones I think are the most interesting. Anyways, that's as far as what we have for the news of the week, which brings us to our board game hotness, our Board Game Geek hotness review. This is a new thing I started last week. I do not know if I'll do it forever, but I am going to do it for right now. We'll see how long it lasts. Whenever I start something new on the channel, it's always a combination of determining what's my own interest in doing it long term, as well as what is the audience reception. Both of those things are factors in terms of, well, whether I do any new thing or series or adjustment to anything I do. It's always a combination of my own feelings and, of course, your feelings to determine it. But this is something that's going to happen at least right now, and we'll see how that changes or trends over time. But down over here, starting at number 50 on the hotness over here, we have Primal the Awakening, which just entered the hotness over here. In general, I'm going to try to comment on why I think that thing is in the hotness. I did have somebody point out in the comments last week, which again, as I'm saying, you influence things. You're part of the conversation. I had someone point out last week that me saying something's in the hotness because it's on crowdfunding is less helpful, because for the most part, people who watch most of my videos will probably already know about that thing being interesting. So like if you watch my content in general, I'm like, hey, this game is popular because it's on crowdfunding, and then 3 times throughout the week I'm talking about crowdfunding, whatever it is. So, and I agree with that feedback. Don't get me wrong, I will almost certainly still reference things that are in the hotness and that are on crowdfunding, but I am going to try to make it more evenly distributed as far as focusing on things that aren't just from crowdfunding, which I didn't do just crowdfunding, but it definitely was a decent amount of those crowdfunding. Anyways, going over here, we have a few things, as well as my own theories as to why they're in the hotness. And keep in mind, for the most part, these are theories. I don't actually know. You might know this. I don't. If there is 100% way to determine why something's in the hotness, I'd be intrigued by that. I don't know if there is, though. For me, it's kind of looking at, like, was there news somewhere? Was there a forum thread somewhere that caused interest? And, like, those things can kind of link together to give you a reason, but I don't know if it's always... I don't know if there's a way to validate why it's in the hotness. I think it's just a matter of assumptions. Anyway, starting off at the bottom over here, we have Primal the Awakening. This one just got reviewed by the Dice Tower. They beat me to it, unfortunately. I mean, I haven't even played. I read the rules and prepped for it. I wanted to like sit down and play and get through it to a degree and then cover it. I've already covered it during the prototype phase like 3 years ago, but I love Primal. I'm excited to dive back into it, and I was excited to see that Dice Tower gave Primal a 9 and an 8.5. I haven't actually watched the review yet because I'm just as guilty as the rest of you at sometimes looking at those scores and not always paying attention to the rest, but I do want to. My assumption, without having watched the review, is that it got dinged for being a big box, overwhelming game. Because I know how Dice Tower feels about that, and I don't even disagree. I think Dice Tower in general, like they did a video of top 10 enemies of gaming, and like Kickstarter, bloat, and giant boxes were in those categories. And I think that is a fair thing to be critical of in general in the gaming space. For me, if I like the game enough, I don't care, but if I don't like the game enough, it's just, like, there are games that I might have liked enough to keep if it had fit into a small box, but I didn't like enough to keep when we're talking about taking up 2 cubbies worth of gaming. So, I get that complaint, but either way, I plan on watching the review. My assumption is they dinged it for that, and that makes sense, but Primal Awakening is probably in the hotness because of the Dice Tower review. We have 4 Shuffle over here. This one I believe is likely in the hotness because they announced that an expansion is coming for it. I think Forest Shuffle is tremendous. You can try it in Board Arena. Great game. They also had that April Fool's Day thing where they had Dragon Shuffle, which looks like a great game. I would please, whoever is listening at Lookout Games, I think it's Lookout Games, please bring us Dragon Shuffle. I think it's a good game, and I think it'll sell well. You should totally 100% do Dragon Shuffle. Please do. But in the meantime, we have 4 Shuffle over here. What else is there? We got Marvel Champions, the card game. This is one that I don't actually know why it's currently in the hotness. Something that's interesting as well to note is whether it's going up or going down. If it's going up, the news is more recent. If it's going down, the news is probably a little less recent. But I couldn't find a good reason why Marvel Champions, the card game, would be in the hotness. If any of you know, please let me know. I think it's a fantastic game. I think it has held up well over the years, but I don't have a particular answer at the moment. Past that, we had Root. Root's an interesting one. Root is currently in the hotness, and you're like, Root's been out for 6 years? It feels like forever. I mean, it is forever in gaming terms. It's been out for 6 years, Root. But Root is in the hotness right now because on a recent live stream, they had Cole, or the various people, Patrick, Leader, Cole, they were talking about how, words, I need to remember words, they were talking about how they have an upcoming route expansion plan. They have plans for upcoming route expansion. They talked a bit about the upcoming races planned. So I don't know when we can expect to see that, but we can expect to see something from route at some point. An expansion from route at some point. Then we have over here, what else we have? We have Epochs Course of Cultures. That's going to be coming to you from crowdfunding. That's currently an active campaign on crowdfunding. I covered it on the channel. You can check it out. I thought it was both very good. Also could use some streamlining or some, I don't know, cleanup to a certain extent. Bus has a reprint. I may have mentioned this last week. One thing I should mention is sometimes I might mention the same thing because I don't always remember perfectly. But Bus currently is getting reprinted by Capstone Games, which is probably why it's here. That's been an expensive, hard to get your hands on game, and now you can actually, I believe it's open for pre-orders as of right now, so you can go ahead and get your hands on that. And then we have, what else do we have? Books of Time. I couldn't find a reason for this one. I'm intrigued as to why it's here. I could not find a reason for Books of Time. And then we have, I thought I had one more I wanted to cover specifically. I feel like there was one more I wanted to cover specifically. I kind of glanced at this first, because I do have to do a bit of research, a drop of research as to why they're here. But I don't know what it was. Was it Arcs? Arcs was in the Hotness. Maybe it was Arcs that I wanted to cover. Because Arcs is somewhere here. Not Arc Nova, but Arcs was also somewhere in the Hotness. If I can find it over here. Root. Did it leave the Hotness since I was talking about it? No, there's no way. There's no way. Now I'm stuck on this. Arcs over here. Number 7 on the Hotness. Arcs, I'm assuming it's there because of both the live stream as well as the fact that they have news that it's going to be delivering shortly. So that's going to be another one that's as far as why it's currently in the BoardGameWire Hotness. And that's what we have for this week. Although Harmonies, I'll cover Harmonies next week because I already had someone comment. Oh, was that the comment? Someone said, why'd you skip Harmonies? Oh, that makes sense now. I didn't understand what they meant. Someone last week said, why'd you skip Harmonies? And I thought they were talking about, like the games I played, and I was like, because I didn't play it. That's why I skipped Harmonies. But I'm realizing now they're talking about the Hotness, and I skipped it again. We'll cover Harmonies next week. It'll definitely be there. Definitely, totally, because it's like number 2 or whatever it is. Anyways, that is what we have as far as our review of that, which brings us to the week in review, starting off with the games I played. As usual, these are a short smattering of games that I've played, starting actually, interesting enough, with 4 Shuffle. Played 4 Shuffle again recently. I think it's a great game. I continuously enjoy that one. I find that I don't know if it's the best game ever. I mean, most games are not the best game ever. I think there's only one game that's the best game ever, just inherently. But I think 4 Shuffle is a lot of fun, and I'm still having fun pulling it out and tabling it. I find that I still find new ways to try to combo different things or try to optimize the combination of different attributes or different cards and, get, card draw for your bottom card placement. Get a bunch of butterflies or some top card draw. There's all these different ways you can combine things. I still enjoy playing it. I still have a lot of fun trying to see how far I can push the envelope on that scoring. Then we also had How to Save a World. I had a chance to play How to Save a World. Keep in mind, disclaimer, we will be doing paid content. We're going to be doing sponsored preview content around this game. But I've played How to Save a World twice now, and so both times I've really enjoyed it. I do not think I'll be doing a dedicated review. As much as you have seen me do reviews when there's also sponsored content, I don't love doing it. And there's usually always like a reason or a situation that led to it, but I don't love combining the two at the same time. I'll probably save a dedicated review for when it eventually does release in retail, so I can cover it then with a dedicated review. But for right now, what I can say is there's obviously areas to be critical of. Most games do. But overall, I really enjoy it. I think it's pretty smooth, pretty streamlined. I like it a lot so far, and we'll have a more nuanced, longer, in-depth take, when it eventually delivers. Then we also have gameplays of Fractious Sky. I played Fractious Sky again. It's a game that I generally enjoy from Ivy Games. It is not my favorite game, and not by a long shot, but from Ivy Games, my favorite game is Mythic Mischief. But Fractious Sky is very solid. It's still a lot of fun to play. I find it's easy to teach, easy to play. My biggest complaint is, and I think by now I've probably played like Fractious Sky like 7, 8 times, and that does go into my complaint of it, which is I find that I'm kind of doing the same thing every single time when I play it, so I both really enjoy it. Like, when I played it this past week, or 2 weeks ago, or no, this past week, I guess, because it's in this section. When I played it this past week, I both enjoyed it and was like, that's a fun game. I haven't played it in like, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months. And so it was nice to play a game that I hadn't played in whatever chunk of time. But it's not the kind of game I'm itching to pull out every single week. One of the games I compare it a lot to is City of Spies, which I think to me, City of Spies is the same mental puzzle of optimization, but with more variability in that experience. So both games overall enjoy, but I think City of Spies is my go-to, and Fractious Sky is my always happy to play kind of conversation. That's as far as what we have for the games I played, which brings us to the week in review. Starting off with this past Saturday. This past Saturday I did a review for, I did 6 small box game reviews. This is a regular series I do on the channel, and I did it again, covering a bunch of small box games. I think everything in this particular video got either a 3 or a 3.5. No major standout hits, just a bunch of decent games overall. Then on Saturday, later on Saturday, we had a Conan gameplay. This is a sponsored gameplay of The Adventures of Conan, currently on GameFound. You can check that out. Basically, me, AP, and Meg going through the game, just, having one of us, who was Conan? Was Meg Conan? I think Meg was Conan. I was the foe, and AP was the ally. and just going through a bit of a dice drafting and dice rolling and trying to optimize around that. On Sunday, I had 2022 games that faded for me. Basically a list of the various games from 2022 that have gone down a notch for me. Like, you know, all the way at the top we had Endless Winter. But I'm trying to remember what else was in there. There's a lot of games in there. They're basically 15 games that in some way have gone down a notch for me. Now, I made it very clear in the video, and I'll say it again here because I just said it on this winter. Many of the games, most of the games, are still games I really enjoy. They're just games that I enjoyed this much, and then they've gone down a bit. How high I felt about them has changed or adjusted over time. I think Framework was in there. Acropolis was in there. There are games that in some way, like Acropolis was a 5 out of 5 when I first covered it. And now it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. That kind of thing does happen. Now, that's an example of a game that even in my original review, I clarified that I'm concerned about longevity because it didn't have the variability that games like Cascadia or Calico do. And so I was concerned about the longevity of Acropolis, and sure enough, over time, that it proved to be a factor. Now, I still love it. I'm still a big fan of the game, but it has gone down. And so that was the point of that video. On Monday, we had 2 back not to back, going through a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, as we usually do, talking about, well, all the aspects, from pledge levels to all the aspects. On Tuesday, we had 3 videos, as we usually do. We had a Fractured Sky sponsored gameplay. Like I said already, this is the gameplay I mentioned already of playing through Fractured Sky from IV Games. That's because they currently have an active crowdfunding campaign for a reprint and mini expansion. Later on Tuesday was a preview for Cosmic Chains. I didn't have a chance to play that one, so I don't know a ton about it, but Meg covered that one on the channel. And then lastly, on Tuesday, we had a review for Epoch, Course of Cultures. That is one that, like I said already earlier in this video, I enjoyed Epochs a decent amount. Some elements I feel need to be a drop cleaned up or different, but I'm annoyed because like the things I liked, I really liked, and I want the whole package to be as good as the things I liked, because the things I liked, I really liked. As it stands right now, I'd kind of recommend Age of Civilization, which is from the same creator, but a much smaller, more accessible game. So check out Age of Civilization if you have a chance, and that's that. And then we brings us to, that's Tuesday. Wednesday we had Games Leaving the Collection video, basically going through the games. Wait, no, Wednesday was, why'd I have... Games Leaving the Collection. Wednesday was Games Leaving the Collection, just going through a variety of games that left. I think the 2 highlights for me were, the 2 bigger games in that video, were Barrage and Ark Nova. Gollum and Ark Nova. Gollum and Ark Nova, which Gollum is the one that I really enjoy, but ultimately I don't know if I'm going to pick it over other games. I do have a degree of connection to it because of the religious theme behind it, which I do enjoy, and especially in a good game, but ultimately to me it's mechanics about everything, and I do like the game, but I just, have to make decisions along the way. And then Ark Nova, which was a much easier choice for me, but probably more impactful to others as the number 4 ranked game of all time on BGG. But Ark Nova, for me, ultimately, I don't think it's as much for me. Past that, we have Thursday. Thursday, we had a review for Tangram City. Tangram City is going to be from Capstone Games. I think it was Capstone Games from Uri Rosenberg. I overall like Tangram City, but I thought it was very play once and move on from. I mean, I played it more than once, but play once and move on from in terms of like I just don't think it's that interesting over multiple plays. It's a game that the first play was great, and the second play was kind of, the magic had worn out already. So Tangram City, I enjoyed it, but it's kind of like a Board Game Cafe kind of I enjoyed it, not like a game that I feel the need. I give it a 3 out of 5. And later on Thursday, we had a what's it called, a live game show in general. Live, if you hear random yells in the background, my daughter's fighting a troll right now. But anyways, later on Thursday, we had a live game show. So that was going to be done, a live game show on the channel. You've seen that before. And then lastly on Thursday, we had an unboxing for Divinus. Divinus from Lucky Duck Games. We had a full unboxing of the all-in chest of plenty or whatnot. And then Friday we had upcoming games, upcoming crowdfunding games for the month of May. It is a little late. Usually I try to do this at the end of the month for the next month, but it just scheduling-wise didn't work out. So upcoming crowdfunding games campaigns for the month of May, just going through a variety. And May looks action-packed already. May it looks like it has a lot of things happening. As far as today we have a few videos going up. We're going to have the a review for Open Sesame going up, and then also a review for Ark Nova is going to be going up. I know I already told you I'm getting rid of it. The order of that is what it is, but Ark Nova, review for Ark Nova will be going up later today. And that brings us to the videos next week. Next week we're going to have a few things. We should have 10 IP board games I love. We should have a review for Ice, as well as the Ice 2nd Edition, as well as a gameplay of it. A bunch of videos should be going up next week. And lastly, the games on the table. As far as the games on the table, I'm actually cheating a bit this week in the sense that these are all games I've already played. They're just games I hope to be playing again because I would like to cover and review all these. But we have Kinfire Delve over here. I've already played this twice now, actually, but I hope to be diving into it again. I played solo, 2 players, and I want to dive into the Vainglory's Grotto first before covering this one. We have Cascadero over here, which I had a chance to play the basic version, but I need to play the advanced version as well. Dabawala, same conversation. Played the basic version, I'm looking forward to playing the advanced version, and Spectral, played the basic version, looking forward to playing the advanced version. There's a consistent trend on, there's advanced cards in Spectral. Cascadero is a tiling game for Knizia. Kinfire Delve is kind of like a roguelite, just without the roguelite unlocking elements. Daboala is a polyomino game with a variable boards and bonus tiles that will give you a different spin on it. And then we have Spectral, which is a deduction game that has extra advanced cards that I haven't yet utilized. All of these games I've enjoyed. Most of these games I don't assume I will keep, which is usually the way it works. But I think a bunch of these, I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. I need to play them more and see how it goes. I think at least one of these games I'm going to keep. The others I might hold on to try more and then eventually move on from. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.